Here's the big question for today. It's a doozy, and I don't have the answer myself. It is truly a discussion because I think everyone's a little bit different. But here's the question. How real should you play SnowRunner? Now, I realize talking about reality in a video game is a bit absurd, but I think we all know what I'm talking about here. There's a range of approaches to this game, from free-flowing, somewhat arcadey, bending the rules, using trucks and methods that don't necessarily jive with reality, and then of course there's the absolute purists who take it to the extreme, which I'm not knocking at all. It's something I want to try one day, I think. Once I've seen all this game has to offer, I might go back for a real stringent run, but right now I'm existing in a happy middle zone, and I'm trying to figure out which rules I should keep in that middle zone. How real do I keep SnowRunner? And so more specifically, what I'm talking about is all the different ways SnowRunner lets you tweak the game to your liking, either making it a scenic tour without any real consequences, or a grind, a very methodical grind that takes a lot of planning and doesn't have nearly as much margin for error as you do in other modes. There's no right or wrong answer, and I had this same debate in Farming Simulator. Obviously, you sacrifice some realism for quality of life, but the question is, where do you draw the line? Where does the game you're playing become so far removed from the spirit of the game that it defeats the point? I'm trying to keep my SnowRunner run grounded and challenging and honest, but without being so much of a pain that I get frustrated and I want to quit. So on the extreme arcadey side, and again, obviously everyone's going to fall on different spots on the spectrum, and I bet you'll recognize facets of each, anywhere from the very arcadey to the extreme simulator side that you've adopted, and I think that's the right approach. So you hear some of these, but if you go all the way arcade-like, it's things like freely using DLC and mod trucks from the outset. It's things like going to more advanced maps and grabbing vehicles that are made for Russia and bringing them back to Michigan and playing that way. It's recovering at any moment and not worrying about the consequences or incurring a cost or anything like that, or turning off damage or turning off fuel requirements or at least a cost for refueling, things like that. And look, in full disclosure, I keep a fair amount of these adjustments for my game. I mean, I felt like I didn't want to make money a constraint, meaning when I played SnowRunner before, again, I played through, I think I completed 3 maps. Money, what I saw was an artificial constraint where it didn't feel like it was an actual constraint. Since I could freely sell my trucks at full price, and trailers as well, money didn't actually matter. The only constraint money actually introduced was that I had to sometimes sell one of my trucks in my storage at full price to buy another one that I wanted, and then if I didn't like that, I would just sell that one back for full price and buy a different one, or the one I previously sold. And then I thought, well, this isn't actually a constraint on the game, it's simply an exercise in shuffling trucks, which isn't very fun for me. So in this playthrough, I cranked the money up real high and made all the additions free because again, I don't think money was an actual constraint. It just created some logistical headaches that I had to route around, and I didn't like that. It defeated the purpose. Now I know some people play to where you can't resell trailers, you can only destroy them. I know some people play that you can't sell trucks at full price. I think that's an interesting concept that I might adopt in a future playthrough. For those same reasons, I don't pay for gas or to recover. What I found was the gas cost was such a pittance that it was pointless to even bother with, so why even bother? And since money was practically unlimited, I saw, there was no point in paying for recovery as well. Now, a lot of purists might dislike that, and I respect it. And after I finish all the SnowRunner DLCs, and I do hope you're along for this ride, then I'm pretty sure I want to go back and do a real challenge run, and I'm going to need your advice on the rules to put in place because I've read some in the comments, and this challenge actually sounds really cool, but it's not something I want to go for my first time through because I actually want to finish the game. I mean, some of these guys out here play SnowRunner with no recovery allowed whatsoever, and some people say recovery costs a good chunk of money. I see mentions of hard mode. I don't even know what hard mode entails. To me, SnowRunner's hard enough to begin with, and I enjoy the challenge. I just wonder what it would be like to add even more layers of difficulty in, again, to lock in that realism. Because truly, I think that's why we play the game. It's not because we want to go flying around at high speeds through mud and snow and ice. We want to overcome the challenge, the obstacles, the puzzle. I think one of the biggest things, the biggest keys to keeping a SnowRunner endeavor grounded is to not let yourself fall victim to truck creep and allow crazy things into your game on any given map. The game does wisely lock some trucks by region, and although sure, I would love to play with some of those Vorons. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. You guys know what I mean. Please correct me. Voron? Bringing those into Michigan or even Alaska would break the game at that point. Not actually break the code, but the driving would be so easy that it wouldn't even be a challenge. Along those same lines, when I first played SnowRunner, I didn't know what I was getting into, and I bought a few DLCs from the jump because I had a lot of confidence I would like this game, and I'm glad I did. Good purchases, but I ended up with a fair amount of DLC trucks in my garage because I didn't know they would just pop in there from the jump. And then I used them because they were sitting there waiting for me, and it did trivialize a chunk of the game for me. Which makes SnowRunner a whole lot less fun. Same thing with mod trucks. You don't realize it, but getting into a truck that's too good for the terrain just makes it a delivery simulator, which does have an appeal. Again, I've talked about wanting to play some truck simulator, American or Euro. I'm not sure which way to go there first, but they do sound really cool. But that's not the point of SnowRunner. When I was first starting out with this game, I remember looking up some tips and tricks, and one of the common ones was, oh, you can make SnowRunner easy if you just go to, Russia, pick up this one truck down the road, and then you just cruise through Michigan. And I remember thinking, I don't want to do that. I like playing with some semblance of realism in my game. I like that the game gives you a certain set of trucks in each map, and there's a few for sale. You know, I do own a lot of the DLCs, and I think as I get to maybe the 4th or 5th DLC, then yeah, I'll work in all the trucks because at that point I'll be a little more established. Or I might even want to keep them tied to the region somewhat. I don't know the exact answer yet, but I do know if I took on Michigan tasks with DLC trucks or trucks from other regions, well, that wouldn't be fun. They would just blast through everything, and I would say, well, cool, this is just me driving across the map. Without the challenge, those errands feel a lot worse, at least to me, and that's not fun for me. That's not the challenge that I signed up for SnowRunner, or signed up. I can't think of what I'm saying. That's not why I started playing SnowRunner. The one setting I wish I had changed was removing the rank requirements for certain add-ons. I think that's a silly design choice, at least for players with a little more experience. I think it's a forced mechanism for difficulty that doesn't align with the realism that I'm going for. I don't think it makes sense that I have to wait until rank whatever to get off-road tires. That is the one thing I wish I had changed. Thankfully, I'm ranking up pretty quickly, so it's not going to be an issue pretty soon. But aside from that, the rest I'm pretty happy with. And this is what I've been thinking on. Again, I'm playing Michigan for a second time and doing it a little differently, where I use a variety of trucks to do the tasks. For example, I took the GMC 1500 back out, the Kodiak, which I hadn't done in a long time because most of my trucks were deployed in different parts of the map, and I had to do a quick task around Black River. And I was like, man, I miss this thing. I miss driving this truck for this one simple task. Before, like I said, I would just pick what I thought was my strongest truck, drive it out for whatever task, complete it, recover it back, and then repeat that ad nauseum. And that got to be pretty boring. Now I've got my entire fleet of trucks positioned across the entire map, and I get to choose, okay, this truck isn't my best truck, but this task is small, and since I've scouted everything, I know the terrain quite well, I can use this truck that isn't the best suited for off-road to deliver these wooden planks, because I don't want to bring my white Western Star all the way back from Island Lake, where I'll need it to tackle some tough off-road terrain. Just this setup alone adds a really cool amount of realism to what I'm trying to do, and that makes me wonder what else I can work in that wouldn't be too burdensome, but would also increase the fun of SnowRunner. And that is all we have for today, folks. This brings us to the end of today's video. I want to thank you for watching and being part of the SnowRunner journey as I explore this massive game in a whole new light. I appreciate the comments, love the feedback, love the guidance. I'm trying to build a SnowRunner community on my House of Mediocrity Discord, primarily War Thunder, but I'm growing SnowRunner by the day, so join if you feel like it, links in the description. Either way, I know we're going to see you next time, and I appreciate it. On behalf of all of us here at Mediocre Industries, you have yourself a wonderful day.